Hey, what's up guys? Today I'll show you a horror comedy film, To Catch a Virgin Ghost, SISILY 2KM. Spoiler ahead, watch out and take care. The movie starts with a gangster nicknamed Jinx, who is on the run because he stole the diamonds that his gang had smuggled. Jinx is on his way to find some shelter in a faraway village called SISILY. According to the weather forecast, there'll be thunderstorms and heavy rainfall over the weekend. Later on, he receives an unexpected call from his gang boss. He encourages him to return the diamonds, but Jinx refuses. It's then revealed that Jinx locks his boss inside the punching bag on his apartment's rooftop. Finally, Jinx arrives in SISILY and passes by a warning sign that the road is prone to accidents. Unfortunately, as he avoids the human-like creature that's blocking the road, his car falls into the cliff. Luckily, he survives the accident. After a long walk, Jinx arrives at SISILY's farm and asks for help from the villagers. While they are on the tractor, Jinx is surprised to see a huge house in such a place. The villagers say that their small houses were washed away by the typhoon, so the government gave them money to build the huge house where they all live. As soon as he arrives at the villager's house, Jinx goes to the comfort room and pooks out the bag that contains the hidden diamonds. Overjoyed, Jinx doesn't notice that he hasn't turned off the faucet, so the water overflows in the tub. As he turns it off, he accidentally slips, causing the diamonds to fall on the floor. Two of the villagers notice that Jinx has been in the comfort room for too long, possibly comforting his hot dog, so they make fun of him. They pretend to be cops, which scares Jinx to shit a lot. In great fear, he immediately picks up the shit-smelly diamonds and swallows them back again. As he looks at the mirror, he's startled to see a ghost behind him. He then slips backward and bumps his head on the toilet, causing him to lose consciousness. After a while, the villagers find Jinx lying on the floor, so they think that he's already dead. Suddenly, the power goes out. The villagers' chief checks Jinx and finds a diamond in his nostrils, which surprises them all. When the light comes back, the village chief immediately returns the diamond to Jinx's nose and tells everyone that it's the right thing to do. Later that night, the villagers couldn't help but think about the diamond. Out of greed, they decide not to report Jinx's death to the police. They also agree to sell the diamond and divide the money equally. On the other side, the gangsters go to Jinx's apartment and find the boss inside the punching bag. The gang leader gives the boss 3 days to retrieve the diamonds, or else he'll be dead. To cover Jinx's death, the villagers cement his body on the wall. However, while they're eating, Jinx suddenly speaks. It appears that he has not died, but just lost consciousness. The village chief tells them that if they do not continue the plan, the incident will be reported as attempted murder, and they will go to jail. So instead of helping Jinx, the villagers ignore him as if they don't hear anything. Afterward, the villagers continue hiding Jinx on the wall, using hollow blocks and cement. Jinx bursts into tears as he begs them to stop, but they refuse to listen. Then they hit Jinx with a shovel, causing him to lose consciousness. Meanwhile, the boss, together with some notorious gangsters, the monk, Mad Dog, and Slowhead, track Jinx's phone location. Immediately, they go to SISILY and find Jinx's car down the cliff. Later on, the gangsters arrive at the villager's house. They ask them if they see Jinx, but they refuse to cooperate. They warn them that if they lie, all of them will be hurt. Suddenly, the boss sees a silhouette nearby that disappears in a blink of an eye, so he just ignores it. The villagers are terrified of the gangsters, so they say that Jinx just stops over for a night and heads over to the east the next day. However, the boss doesn't believe it because they're obviously lying. The boss orders Mad Dog and Slowhead to search the area. Jinx once locked the boss in a punching bag, so the monk looks at another punching bag but doesn't find Jinx. The boss checks what the villagers are cooking. He then gets meat inside the boiling pot. At first glance, he sees a hand, but when he double checks it, it's only a pig's foot. The boss thinks that the villagers had been paid off by Jinx. That's why they don't want to expose his whereabouts. Thereafter, the boss tells the villagers that they would like to stay in the available room. However, the village chief refuses and asks them to leave. To frighten them, the boss pulls out his knife and immediately cuts the village chief's messy beards. Then the gangsters torture the villagers. To stop them, the village chief just allows them to stay. Instantly, the gangsters go to their room to take a rest. Little did they know, Jinx is just behind their room's wall. The boss goes out to interrogate the villagers. He then tells them that he knows they're lying because he traced Jinx's phone location and the signal says that it's around the area. Afterward, he calls Jinx's phone. They're all terrified when Jinx answers the call. However, the line isn't clear. The Slowhead hangs the boss photo on the wall. During that time, Jinx already gained consciousness. Slowhead is so scared as he hears someone is asking for help behind the wall. However, Mad Dog doesn't believe him. So to speed things up, he hits the nail that pierces Jinx's forehead, causing him to lose consciousness once again. That evening, the boss wakes up when he sees a shadow passing by the window. He then gets his knife and chases it. The monk then wakes up and notices that the boss goes out. The monk wonders why the chant used to drive away ghosts is playing all over the house. Meanwhile, the boss continues to chase the shadow. He passes by a grave before he reaches an abandoned orphanage, where he sees the villagers brutally eating internal organs. He then screams out loud as he sees a ghost behind him. It's then revealed that it was just a scary nightmare, but the boss is confused because the monk tells him that he went outside last night. The boss tries to call Jinx once again, but his phone is already turned off. He's already pissed, so he orders his men to get their weapons and go to the forest to look for Jinx. On their way, they see the villagers. The village chief tells them that they look awful and asks if something happened last night. However, the gangsters don't bother to answer. That's why one of the villagers drastically says that he'll kill them. The boss hears him, so he goes back and shoots the owl on the tree to frighten the villagers. On the farm, the villagers think that the boss just pretended to talk to Jinx to scare them. They assume that he's already dead when they cemented him on the wall. However, there's a possibility that he might be alive if there's a crack in the wall, so they immediately go back to their house to check. Soon after, the boss and his men arrive in the middle of the forest, where they see the grave that the boss saw in his nightmare. Suddenly, he falls to the ground as he sees a ghost on the tree, sawing a branch but disappearing into thin air. They continue their search and arrive in an abandoned orphanage that the boss also saw in his nightmare. As they enter, the monk shares about the virgin ghost that kills people. The boss hits the monk because he's pissed with his ghost stories. The villagers go back to their house and tear down the wall. They are startled when Jinx opens his eyes, so they immediately hit him with a pan, causing him to faint again. Then they go to the farm to bury his body. Inside the abandoned orphanage, the old phone unexpectedly rings. The monk then says that his master monk told him that virgin ghosts are afraid of naked men. Instantly, the virgin ghost appears in front of them. Just a few seconds later, they find themselves outside the abandoned orphanage. In great fear, they quickly run their smelly asses away, almost naked. Thereupon, the gangsters arrive at the farm where the villagers are burying Jinx's body. All of them act cool as if everything's fine. The villagers pretend like they are farming, while the gangsters pretend like they're exercising. Finally, the boss and his men arrive at the villager's house. He then sees Jinx's belongings, which he gave to him as a present. It strengthens his suspicion that the villagers are hiding something from them. Finally, the villagers arrive home. Immediately, the boss gets his knife and throws it at the villagers, which scares them. The boss then receives a call from the gang leader, who orders him to bury the villagers alive if they don't cooperate. However, the villagers still deny everything. Out of frustrations, the boss and his men hit them. Unbeknownst to them, Jinx survives and poops out the diamonds again. However, he's struck by lightning, which instantly kills him. The boss hears Jinx's scream, so they immediately look for him. They are surprised when they see his lifeless body. Luckily, the boss finds the shit-smelly diamonds in Jinx's hands. The boss expresses his disappointment to the villagers because he thinks that they're innocent and kind people. He knows that they tortured Jinx because of the wounds found on his body. But before he leaves, the boss apologizes to the villagers and gives them money. The gangsters underestimate the capabilities of the villagers. Out of greed, the villagers decide to take back the diamonds at all cost. They puncture the gangsters' car wheel, then hit them using their farming tools. The gangsters fight them, but the villagers are too strong. Thereafter, Mad Dog gets the gun and points it at them, which terrifies the villagers. However, the Slovite informs everyone that the gun has no bullet. The villagers angrily look at them, so the gangsters run to the woods. The boss tells his men to go first as he lures the villagers, but Mad Dog and Muck refuse. However, Slovite immediately runs his slow brain away, leaving them behind. As he runs to the woods, the boss accidentally steps on the trap. He finds it difficult to run because of his injured foot. The villagers then corner the boss to the cliff and ask for the diamonds. The boss can't believe what the villagers are doing. To stop them, he swallows the shit-smelly diamonds and bravely jumps off the cliff. Miraculously, the boss survives and immediately hides in the abandoned orphanage. He then uses the old phone to ask for help, but it isn't working. He's startled as the virgin ghost holds his head. Out of fear, he hides inside a room, but the virgin ghost appears next to him, causing him to faint. The virgin ghost asks the boss, who is pretending to be unconscious, why he killed the innocent owl who has its owlets to feed. She expresses her disappointment and says that humans don't have the right to take away lives, even that of animals. The boss apologizes, saying that he thought it was a crow, not an owl. The virgin ghost forces the boss to get out of the abandoned orphanage, but he begs to allow him to stay until morning, or at least use the old phone to ask for help to save his men. At first, the virgin ghost refuses, but out of compassion, she allows the boss to stay and even treats his injured foot, but ignores his injured hormone weapon. Meanwhile, the villagers already capture the other gangsters and torture them. According to the virgin ghost, the villagers are criminals, and when they got out of prison, her father took them in and gave them new lives. Despite her father's goodness, the villagers kill him and steal his land. The virgin ghost sees that the boss wound is bleeding heavily, so she asks her to take off his pants so she can tie it to his leg to stop the bleeding. The boss is hesitant because the monk told him that virgin ghosts are afraid of naked men, which the virgin ghost denies. Later, the boss finds out the virgin ghost and her father own the grave that he saw in the woods. Also, she's the ghost that he saw the other day sawing the branch of the tree. She explains that she's doing that because the shade of the branch is blocking the sunlight to her tomb. The boss offers his help in cutting it down and even calls the virgin ghost sweetie, which she likes a lot. The boss really finds the virgin ghost pretty, so he wonders if she has a scary appearance. The virgin ghost then shows her scary self, which frightens him and cools down his hormones. The virgin ghost tells him that humans are scarier than ghosts, to which he strongly agrees. She then revealed that the orphanage was a happy and peaceful place until the villagers came and stole her father's land. He got sick because of too much stress and eventually died. Later on, the villagers ran over her and left her on the road to die at her virgin age. The boss encourages the virgin ghost to take revenge. However, she refuses because doing so will not bring her and her father back to life. The boss gets disappointed because the virgin ghost doesn't even have a grudge against the villagers. She's very kind and doesn't deserve the misfortune she had. Afterward, the virgin ghost tells the boss to leave and go through the path he took before he landed in the abandoned orphanage. She mentions that he needs to be in a hurry in order to survive. It turns out the boss is already a wandering spirit and he needs to go back to his body before the Soul Reaper arrives to take him to the afterlife. Luckily, he's able to escape the Soul Reaper. Meanwhile, the villagers find the boss, who just regained consciousness near the river. When they're about to cut the boss' stomach open to get the diamonds, Jinx arrives and he's now possessed with the virgin ghost. At first, she denies that she's the virgin ghost, but the villagers are sure that it's her because of her girly voice. The villagers ask the virgin ghost to just leave peacefully, but she refuses and rushes to the villagers. The village chief shoots her, but it doesn't harm her, since she's already dead. Jinx's possessed body weakens, so she transfers to the body of another villager. She keeps on transferring to the villager's body to defeat them. Suddenly, the village chief plays the ghost driving chant that severely hurts the virgin ghost. The villagers immediately continue their plan against the boss. However, the boss lures them that if they spare his life, he will tell them their office's location, where lots of diamonds are hidden. Out of greed, the villagers take the bait. Unbeknownst to them, the boss gives them the location of their rival gang. Immediately, the villagers go to the address. They cement the gangsters' bodies except for their heads, so they cannot escape. The boss and his men try to remove the cement, but to no avail. The slowhead provokes the boss, and the boss angrily pushes the cement. The cement cracks, so they manage to escape. On the other side, the villagers excitedly go to the location that the boss gave. Little did they know their driver is possessed by the virgin ghost. The virgin ghost then drives the car into the cliff, instantly killing all of the villagers. The movie ends with the boss instructing the gangster to clean the virgin ghost's grave and to cut the branch that blocks the sunlight into her tomb. This is Daniel's CC Movie Channel. Stay safe and enjoy your day.